This is John Kotowski. I'm here with Adam Jarczyn, and today we are doing monetization analysis of two PLG companies, Miro and Mural. Adam, maybe we can start off with a brief description of the two companies. Can you tell us what they do?
Thanks, John, for having me. I appreciate that you are pronouncing my last name in a true Polish form. They're very similar companies. They both provide like collaborative whiteboarding software for remote teams. So, we kind of landed on like, hey, it'd be cool to kind of compare these and try to figure out what is it about their pricing and packaging that's helping them distinguish themselves from each other, let's say.
There's so much you can learn from pricing pages. I just pulled up a report from Pricing SaaS, which compares the two. And like you said, Adam, on the surface, they look very similar. The number of employees is pretty close. They both price by members. They both have a freemium plan. Even their plan names are almost identical. But let's take a look at the actual pricing pages. Maybe let's start off with Miro. Is there anything from the user's perspective that stands out for you as you look at this pricing page?
There's a few things that are interesting to me. I think Miro is using their pricing and packaging structure to drive usage. I think it's really interesting the way they've structured their free to starter. Specifically, they're starting with an unlimited number of team members, but limiting the number of boards. And then that moment where, a user would have to become a paid user is when a team of people who are using those three boards are finding their Miro is applicable in more use cases maybe than they really thought. And now they're up against this 3 boards upper limit. And so now they have to move to starter, where in starter they actually flip. So now it's an unlimited number of boards, but they charge per user. So it's an interesting, I think, way where you can do an unlimited amount of collaboration to start acquiring a new behavior to use Miro. And now when you want to keep using Miro, they're like, okay, well, now we're going to start charging you. So I think that's really smart what they've done. I think it's interesting also the way their business plan, you can actually do like a monthly or annual subscription. Like obviously they're providing a 20% discount for annual, but I think there's something there. And I know, John, you and I have talked a little bit about these two companies. So maybe, how that contrasts with Mural will start providing a little more color as to how they're using the pricing and packaging to drive certain user behaviors.
So when I look at these two, when I compare them side by side, on the surface, they look very similar. One thing that I find interesting is that they both have a freemium plan. So they basically onboard free users onto the entry-level plan, but they don't have trial for the other two plans, which I find works really well when the features are exposed in the freemium plan. Maybe let's flip over to Mural. So again, like you have all the features, and then if you want to upgrade to a pay plan, like there's in-app chat and email support, monthly billing. This isn't necessarily a feature you have to experience. So it makes sense. You can get them started on a freemium plan, and to convert them to a pay plan, again, like they get all access to this. But when there are features like smart diagramming or smart meetings, these are features that you actually want the users to experience before they purchase. So I'm actually surprised that they don't have a trial for this plan out of the gate, because otherwise, if you don't get to experience these features, you're basically, your only choice is to purchase it and then potentially cancel it after a while. Maybe this is why they have monthly plans all the way from starter to business. So people can actually try it out for a month. If they like it, they can keep that plan or not. I guess the other option is they can have paywalls with some educational material about some of these features. But again, like they're sort of gating these features and there's no trial. So I find that super interesting.
Yeah, when I look at pricing and packaging pages for businesses that aren't necessarily like collaboration tools, like it fits more nicely in those kinds of tools that want to try like reverse free trials, or because they're trying to expose users to more premium features. And then, that loss aversion shows up when they're met with this situation where they're going to downgrade to the free plan. But I think like this theme or this pattern of collaboration based tools, so anything that gets better with teams basically, are using this combination of usage based freemium models to help people get sticky around a new behavior. And then when they've built kind of this critical mass of users necessary for the behavior to become really valuable for the group of users, they slam them into these paywalls and they try to start charging for access to it. But I think those additional features, I guess what I would want to understand if I was talking to, senior people at Mural is like, are those features that they're gating in the business level plan really valuable to the user when they're by themselves in like that free moment or not? It could be that, these are the kind of advanced level features that only come when you've got a group of people who have been using it for a certain period of time, who are now trying to get more out of it or coming up with new use cases where Miro or Mural are valuable. And so they need access to these kinds of features. And that's where they're using that opportunity to upsell them from, a starter to a business level plan.
I had an interesting conversation earlier this morning about reverse trials and whether they only apply to new users or existing users. I haven't seen this out in the wild very often, but technically it is possible to do reverse trials for paid users as well. So let's say if somebody converts to starter, and if they want to experience some of these additional features, but they're already a paying customer, they could technically try business on a trial basis. And then if they don't like it, be downgraded, or if they don't do anything, charge the full business price.
That's interesting. So it could, maybe it's, if you were at a starter level plan in Miro, you would get the opportunity to try the business plan for a 2-week period. You get all the additional functionality, then you'd be downgraded back to like your starter level plan. It could be that it does exist. We're just not set up as starter level users right now, so we don't see it. But that's interesting. It's an interesting way to kind of try to nudge kind of up an upgrade motion for, from the lens of the business, and using the reverse free trial to try to help nudge up instead of from free to paid, from like paid tier 1 to paid tier 2. That would be interesting.
Yeah, investors love net revenue retention. So if you can demonstrate, expanding revenue from existing customer base, it's, investors definitely love looking at those metrics or love seeing those metrics. I think, again, I think it's a really interesting concept. Again, I'll be interested to hear if anybody has come across this with some of the PLG companies, because the alternative is you either you have to convince somebody, hey, this is a good feature, and then they have to basically pay for it before they get to try it, which is sort of like anti-PLG. So cool. Anything else that stands out?
Well, on the Mural side, and John, we were talking about this a little bit when we were kind of just getting mentally prepared for this conversation, was about the business level version and how in the case of Miro, you have an option to pay for it monthly, but in the case of Mural, you only have an annual option. And we were talking about what those implications are for the business and for users.
Yeah, thanks for pointing this out. So if we look at these two pricing pages, Miro has annual and monthly option for both starter and business. You can see as I toggle, the prices change, whereas Mural only has that toggle under Team Plus. They don't have this under business. So if you want a business plan, you have to commit to an annual payment, which is a couple $100 if you multiply this by 12. So it's a bigger commitment. From the business perspective, that's great, because we know that customers who are on annual plans churn a lot less than the ones that are on monthly plans, because they only have an opportunity to churn once a year, opposed to monthly customers who are reminded every time they get billed every month that they're still paying for the service, which has a lot of interesting financial benefits for companies. Obviously, it affects the conversion rate, because it's for somebody to spend $18 or $17.99, it's easier than spending a couple $100. So it may affect conversion rates. But what do you think about it from the user's perspective, Adam?
I think it's interesting, like the value for the business is, hey, I've got this I've locked in a bunch of users for a year-long contract, so their lifetime value could be longer. But I think it actually puts Mural in this interesting position where they may not have to deliver on the value as well as Miro would, because they know that they have that user locked in for paying for 1 year. So the way I think about it is, like in Miro's monthly plan, where you're paying monthly for it, if Miro is not setting a really high standard of value that they're delivering to their users, then their user could easily churn out of that after month 1 or month 2 or month 3. So like they have to hold a very high standard of the quality of the product and the value they're providing in order for users to stay sticky. Whereas like Mural, arguably that bar could be a little bit lower, because they know that they've have this contract that's allowing them to get paid for the first year. And so, it could show up that Mural has more churn risk when those contracts mature. So that could give them more flexibility to offer a slightly less quality product, is what Miro would have to be holding itself to avoid churn.
Yeah,
so the user experience on Miro, I'd imagine the Miro team is thinking about a much higher, a higher standard. How much higher, I don't know. But I think that that's a consideration for the business and the user.
Absolutely. Anybody who's on monthly plan has to see that product value every month. Otherwise, they can hit that cancel button. Some companies that have customers on annual plans just really focus on them right before the renewal. So 2 or 3 months before the renewal, they start engaging them, making sure that they're active, which is a little, sketchy sometimes. I think the best model, the one that I prefer is, having that option of annual versus monthly on all plans. But if, like after the customers sign up on monthly plans, see the value, you incentivize them to upgrade to annual plans. So, after 2 or 3 months, you email them, potentially offer additional discounts and say, hey, convert to annual plan, save 20%. And if you do it today, we'll give you an extra 10% off. So you sort of like win on both fronts.
So you're saying in the case of like Miro could offer a user to come into the monthly plan, and after month 2 or month 3, encourage them to sign an annual plan, because the argument would be those 3 months would have confirmed that it's a high enough value to warrant it, instead of trying to use the plan in the case of Miro to lock in a user for a year and then lower the standard of value.
Exactly. They may purchase annual, spend $200, and like after a month or 2, they may realize, this isn't really worth it to us, but they've already paid for it, so they're locked in. So again, like it creates sort of like friction between the value delivered and what they're paying.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting take. It's a really interesting balance between the needs of the company and the needs of users.
Yeah. All right, Adam, awesome insights. If people wanted to find you, where can people find you? Follow? Are you on LinkedIn, Twitter? What's your?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the best place. I'm pretty active there, so that's the best way to get in touch with me.
Awesome. All right, thanks for your time, Adam.
Thanks, Sean. I appreciate it.